Hello, hello. We are back. It is another Wednesday, and we are back with another Chainsaw Man stream. So, the thing with this episode, before we get right into it, this is probably my least favorite episode so far. Out of the 3 or 4 now that we've seen, this is probably my least favorite one. Mostly because of the first half. I think the second half was very, very strong, but the first half was sort of boring for me, honestly. It was very, very pretty, which we'll talk about plenty more. But it definitely wasn't my favorite. I feel like the major through line for this episode is basically just juxtapositions, right? Because like at the very, very start of the episode, I guess we can start going through it, right? Like at the very, very start, the first shots of the entire thing are those peaceful birds, and then we just sharp cut to Power just like sucking their blood, and then we see like the cow or whatever, and then again she's just like killing it. And then there's the bear and everything like that, right? There's sort of all of those super, super sharp cuts. And then at the end of the episode, we get the same exact thing with Aki, where he's just chilling. And then we just cut to Power, just knocking the doors down, and it's chaos all around, right? So I feel like that's sort of the major thing of this episode, is just showing how things change. Just like with these very, very sharp juxtapositions. So I did like that. And yeah, we opened with obviously another flashback of Power, which thankfully she's alive. That's great, and Meowy's alive. Most importantly, my own Meowy is right next to me. But Meowy is alive. It is glorious. The only thing that I wrote down in big bold letters is there's blood in the water, which seems a bit foreshadowy, if you ask me. When she like kills the bear, right? There's blood in the water. Seems very, very sus. Very, very sus to me. Obviously, it could be a sort of a backwards foreshadowing that she was already sort of dead. But I don't know. Whenever I see a scene that has blood in the water, I'm always like, hold on. So, you know, I found that a wee bit fishy. Maybe it's foreshadowing her death. Maybe it's foreshadowing someone else's death. Who knows? At this point, I mean, based on what I said about her death last time, right? Obviously, there's a bit about the magic system that I'm still not super into. Still in the Power flashbacks, the shots we see, like of the sunrise, it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Like literally, the animation in each and every scene is just stunning. I can't stop saying it. It's like Violet Evergarden, right? Every single shot, you're just like, wow. That was really, really good. That was really, really good. It's really one of those shows. Oh, and there's also a really, really cute shot of her sleeping with Meowy. And then we obviously, again, sharp cut to her being in like the stomach of the devil. And then she obviously saves her. Another bit of thing that I found very, 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 very fishy. We see a murder of crows, which is always fishy. We see the murder of crows, which goes away very quickly. But again, it's one of those things that are always sus. Is it just foreshadowing like what happens immediately after? Like the other fight that goes on? Maybe. This is one of those cinematic things that I'm always very, very wary of. Is it pointing to something? Something far down the line? Who knows? Everybody's alive. Everything is good. And then we get into, I think, what is the main reason why I wasn't a huge fan of what happens next. Because, like, the fight is over, right? Denji rescues Power and Meowy, and everything seems chill. And then the Leech Devil appears. And the thing that, basically here, right? We are sort of given a few more hints about how Denji's power works, right? That he's low on blood, he can't transform. So he has this partial transformation and all that. And the 2D animation here was really, really good. The choreography was excellent and all that. And also Denji just pulls a straight up Luffy, right? He can't use his power, so he just literally jumps up and punches it in the face. I really got Luffy vibes from that. But aside from like the whole wow, monkey brain happy angle, I feel like this fight didn't do anything. It felt very, very pointless. There is one thing, which we'll talk about in a second, but in terms of Denji's character and everything going on there, this was a really, really, really weird one. I found this sort of almost fillery feeling. It was wrapped up very, very quickly, which I'm happy about. It literally took like 2-3 minutes. But it was weird. It was weird. The only big thing from it, right, is that we see Aki's power for the first time. Basically, he does this little hand thing, right? He embraces his inner Spider-Man or whatever, and a giant wolf appears. That was really, really cool. Again, I'm not gonna lie. I think Denji, out of everyone we've met so far, has the least interesting power in my opinion. Like, I'm sorry. Summoning a giant wolf is so badass. Literally molding your blood into weapons is so badass. And then there's like Denji. Oh, I'm just gonna pop a chainsaw man out of my face. Kind of boring when you compare it to everyone else. It's a fox? Okay, it's a fox. Fair, I think it's a fox, yeah. It's a fox wolf thing, sure. Wait, is it like the spiritual protector fox thing? And now that I think about it, it's white and everything. It might be that. He said it in the hospital. Think he did, yeah. But whatever. It's so cool. It's so cool. Like, I could make the whole meme, right? The Giga Chad Aki summoning a big fox, and then there's Denji. Obviously, the magic system we'd get to a little more, which we'll get to that a little later on as well. The whole trading is basically trading a part of yourself to use the power. Again, I've said this in many, many videos before. I love the deal with the devil trope. So if that's something we're going to see, big thumbs up. Big thumbs up. But yeah, basically, he one-shots the devil, and that's the end of that. And I feel like that's sort of where my big problem with the episode comes in. Because we're like 11 minutes in, right? And it was sort of a little bit of more power flashbacks, and then it's just this one fight that doesn't do much. For me, at least. I don't know. And then we get to the hospital, where, once again, of course, because this is me, I said, look at the shot. Them in the hospital is so, so good. The lighting falling through the window, right? This is one thing that I really, really like with their cinematography. We get a lot of shots that, I think I've said this before, but they really, really remind me of live-action cinematography, right? They basically have these shots that are through windows. They're from different angles. They sometimes don't even focus on the characters themselves. And I feel like that's not something we see a lot in anime. I feel like with anime, we usually see super basic angles. But here, in a lot of cases, we like drift outside of the window. And I love that. That looks so good. That looks so, so good. And again, like the whole shadows falling from the window sills. And then the warmth. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's so, so good. And this is also where we learn that he does trade like a part of his skin to use the power, right? And at the end of the episode, or somewhere along the episode, I don't remember, we see that his other arm is also wrapped up. So this is where I got to asking, is this like a regular thing? Or is it an emergency thing, right? It doesn't seem like he's particularly happy about using it. So I'm sort of curious to see how often they leverage those deals. Because, I mean, trading a part of your skin, that's probably no big deal. But when you get into trading more and more and more, I'm curious to see what happens there. And I'm curious to see what the implications are for someone like Denji, who's sort of half human, half devil, right? They really went far and beyond to make cinematography look much better than regular anime, hands down. And I feel like in a lot of cases you could also talk about how the cinematography sort of speaks to the scene itself. And like in a lot of cases when we drift outside of the window, right? It's sort of, we are supposed to be the observer, and we're not really supposed to be super into it. We see a lot of that with Makima, for example, right? She's this mysterious character, and in a lot of scenes she's in, we're usually like behind her or even like through a window or something like that. Sort of like we're just looking in, not quite understanding it. So that's really, really cool. It's probably a last resort type of thing. That's my thought process right now too. Because I mean, that's usually how it goes with these sorts of deals with the devil, right? Alright, so after the whole hospital scene, Aki goes to deliver the report. And this is where things were a little bit weird. I did like the scene that he like goes to knock on the door, right? He turns around, he's like, nope, Nope, gotta clean myself up. He cleans himself up and only then goes through the door. I feel like that's one of those small details that really, really characterizes somebody. Because you're like, should I say this, or is it considered spoilers? Is it considered spoilers? You're gonna know what I'm talking about, right? But you know when in Breaking Bad, Gus goes to throw up and he pulls this little towel like under his legs. It's one of those details that says so much about a character and how they view the world. So I'm really, really glad they left that in, because I feel like a lot of adaptation studios would have just cut something like that, because it's like not super important, right? He just turns around and cleans himself up. But I like that. I really, really like that. So then he delivers the reports, and again, I mean, the cinematography, right? Like, just look at the scenes. Just look at the scenes. Just look at the scenes. Like, we see reflections in the glass, and the reflections are actually accurate. The reflections are actually 100% accurate. It boggles my mind that somebody put through... Like, the amount of detail in these scenes is something else entirely. It's ridiculous. Like, literally, every scene that I just see, I just scan my eyes over it just to see all the little tiny details that somebody has put in. I love it so much. I love it so much. If they can keep up this animation style, it's gonna be nuts. Because, I mean, this is setting a precedent. 100%. Everything is going to be compared to Chainsaw Man after this. I'm certain of that. Especially because it's going for the sort of realistic style, right? But then he says that they didn't find any gun flesh. And is this something I missed? Because what the hell is gun flesh? I've got literally no clue what they were talking about, and I didn't have time to rewatch the episode to see if I've missed anything. But they were talking about some sort of gun flesh, and I don't know what that is. Or maybe it's supposed to be a sort of a dropped line that you're not really supposed to understand yet. Maybe it's like something else that's going on. Because, I mean, if we're talking about the power system, right? Guns are something that people probably fear a lot. So, are they searching for a gun devil? Is there somebody like Denji who's a gun devil? Maybe that's what they're talking about. So they're looking for the gun devil that they might be able to recruit. Maybe it's like the big bad. Who knows? Who knows? It feels like it's a big mystery that's being set up. But again, I totally might have just missed something. Which sort of leaves me with the question, if we're tackling things like guns already, what's gonna be next? Because we talked about this when we talked about the power system originally, right? When you talk about like guns and something super extreme like a nuclear weapon, I feel like in a lot of cases people fear guns more because it's like something they understand. So, I don't know. What really goes up from guns? I guess only time will tell. But if it is a gun devil, and if it's a gun devil that they're going to try to recruit, that's probably going to be a ton of good drama, and I'm looking forward to it. And then, a scene that had me doing a double take. She says that Aki looks more flexible, right? And she suspects that it's Denji's influence. Originally, I was like, what do you mean? They've known each other for like 2 hours. Then I realized that no. They haven't known each other for 2 hours, and they're roommates. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of how ridiculously fast the pace has been so far. But the fact that they've literally been living together for a while now completely slipped my mind. And the passage of time is super messed up in my mind. I have literally no idea how much time has passed. I'm gonna be honest, because we're on episode 4. Has it been a week? Has it been a couple of days? I have no clue. Literally no idea. It sort of makes me wish that they added some sort of date counter somewhere, like some series usually do. You know, like January of X year, and then like the next episode starts with like March X year. Her look after he said he was the same is so scary. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I see exactly what I just brought up the scene. Yes. I mean, I've been saying it. Makima is a sus Gus. I've been saying it all the time. She's just like, you know, she's just got that menacing look with that slightly tilted head. Yeah, I mean, that's super sus. That is super sus. We have never seen her with like rolled up sleeves or anything, right? Because now that we're talking about trading a part of your skin to use a power, we have never seen Makima. Like if she has any scars, like Aki does. I don't know. Makima is sus. So then, Aki walks out alone, and I think this is where we get into my favorite part of this episode. So, he walks out in the night. Again, they did not need to include that shot, but the shot of him, like just from below, and we see the cityscape in the night, that is so good. And then we get the famous Aki routine. And oh boy, the little sort of slice of life type deal as he goes about his routine, it's so perfect. It's so good. And another thing with the animation, when he goes to wash his face and you can see his reflection in the water for like a split second, somebody did that. They didn't need to do that. They didn't, but they did. Also, I'm a coffee nerd. His coffee routine is pretty good. Hello, editing Koroto jumping in. Because I'm a nerd, I went through his coffee routine again, because of course I did, and nerded out a bit about Japanese coffee culture in the process. First off, in the stream I said he didn't grind fresh, but he actually doesn't, I just missed a scene, so that's my bad. But what jumped out to me is that he didn't rinse his filter, which I soon learned is actually a thing in Japan. I am mostly an espresso person, so my pour-over skills are sort of lacking, but I got to researching osmotic flows and not rinsing your filters and a whole bunch of other techniques, so whoever did the coffee scenes in this one, good job. And also, if you are a fellow coffee nerd, you probably don't need these recommendations, but just in case, I've left some of my favorite coffee channels here on YouTube in the description below. Alright, but that said, Aki's morning routine is just so good. It's just so chill. It's glorious. And again, it sets up that juxtaposition once again, right? And it actually sets it up twice. Because we see him go through his whole morning deal, right? He's just chilling on the balcony, having a nice cup of coffee. And then we see Denji get up. He's obviously sort of like, how are you getting up so early? He's just walking around, you know, asking what's for dinner or whatever, what's for breakfast or whatever he asked. And then Power just kicks down the doors and chaos is literally unleashed on all fronts. And I love that. So the scene of her just showing up with Meowie on her shoulder, it is hands down one of my favorite shots in the entire anime so far. The fact that her cat is literally just chilling on her shoulder, it's so perfect. It's so perfect. And again, everybody needs an animal companion, and this is why. I do feel bad for poor Aki though, because I mean, I don't know how many of you live alone, but when you live alone, you get used to living alone and it feels very good. And when someone shows up and ruins all of your routines, it's bad. And then when another person shows up and ruins them even further, it's even worse. And Aki is a low-key dude who has been paired up with two people who are chaos incarnate. And then the last like minutes of the episode is basically Denji trying to, like, when Denji is surprised by how chaotic someone is, you know things are bad, right? He's like trying to clean the toilet. It's just chaos all around. And then the final scenes are some very not safe for work material. And that's where we leave the episode. That's basically it. A wild one and a very different one from everything we've seen so far. Definitely the second half, I think, saves it for me. But still, even though it's not my favorite, I would say it was a really good episode. And I'm very excited to see what comes now. I feel like the only thing we still need to really learn about are these deals for power. Aside from that, I mean, all the characters are now where you want them to be. We've got a very dysfunctional family with Aki. I feel like that's a very chaotic trio where we're going to see a whole bunch of dynamics. And I also think the fact that we are very conveniently pairing all of them against Makima is very sus. Something tells me, and this might be totally off base. Something tells me that Makima is gonna do something sus. She's gonna like send them to their deaths or something. And this is completely different from the prediction I made a few weeks ago, by the way. I feel like she's going to send them to their deaths or something. And then they're gonna be like, hold up, No. You've been literally keeping us on this leash. You've been making our lives a living hell. Makima is actually the sus Gus. And then Makima is going to be the bad guy. That's what I think. That's what's sort of my inkling right now. So, broadly speaking, a lighter episode. Mostly a lot of fun. Rather than like these super big story things. And yes. A good episode. A good episode. And that said, because this is Chainsaw Man, and clearly money is not a problem at all, we have another new ending. This one, not my favorite. My favorite is still the third one. Like, probably hands down. It's a lot lighter, and there's, like, sort of all the visuals are just chaotic. I mean, all of them are about power, so of course they are, right? But the thing with this ending that almost shot it up to, like, the top spot, the shot of the cat we get, like the sudden zoom in on the cat for like a single frame, that is something I would do in a video of mine. And seeing it, like even the credits disappeared for a second as we zoom in on the cat. It was glorious. It was glorious, and I loved it. It is exactly my type of humor, and it was great. It was great. As I said, favorite part of this episode, hands down, is the Aki focus. I'm very curious to learn about his power and how that works. The fight was pretty and did make my monkey brain happy, but I didn't really care about it at all. And the rest of the episode, interesting. I feel like now that I'm going over it again, I honestly think the gun flesh thing is probably like the biggest question mark for me. On initial viewing, I wrote it down like, what is this? But now that I talk about it again, it feels like it might actually be super important. So I'm curious how that turns out. Regardless, thank you again for joining me, and I will see you, if not on Friday, then on Sunday, definitely. And obviously with a video in just a little bit. Alright, have a good one, bye-bye.